Prepare to dive into the darkest recesses of graphic storytelling as we unearth the chilling tales that lurk in our movies and shows that are based on some of your favorite comics and graphic novels. From the supernatural terrors to twisted superpowers and even just good old depravity, this is your ticket to the chilling and disturbing world of comic-based horror. "30 Days of Night." In the small town of Barrow, Alaska, the residents must endure 30 days of continuous darkness during the winter. During this time, a group of bloodthirsty vampires descend upon the town to feast on its isolated inhabitants. The isolation, relentless vampires, and the setting of constant darkness combine to create a chilling atmosphere of fear and vulnerability. A particularly disturbing scene unfolds when attempting to fight off a vampire. The townsfolk are able to force it into a heavy-duty shredder, while also taking the hand of one of the people. John Constantine, based on the Hellblazer comics, is a detective and exorcist with the ability to see and battle demons and angels. He becomes embroiled in a supernatural conspiracy involving a powerful artifact that could tip the balance between heaven and hell. The exorcism scene involving the possessed girl is intense. As John Constantine battles the demon, her body contorts unnaturally and her face distorts into a terrifying visage of pain and suffering. Ichi the Killer. This Japanese crime horror film follows the sadistic and deranged Ichi, a disturbed individual with a dark past who is manipulated by a mysterious and even more brutal crime lord named Kakihara. The film is notorious for its extreme violence and sadistic characters, pushing boundaries and testing the limits of gore and depravity. In one such scene, Kakihara, the sadistic character, hangs Suzuki by hooks pierced through his skin on his back, as well as piercing his face with a needle in a bizarre display of sadism. The Crow. After being brutally murdered, musician Eric Draven is resurrected by a supernatural crow to seek vengeance on those responsible for his death and the brutal assault of his fiancée. The film's dark and gothic tone, combined with themes of loss and revenge, creates a haunting atmosphere. The scene depicting Eric Draven's transformation into the Crow is haunting. It features surreal visuals, including his lifeless body on the autopsy table being stitched back together and his return from the dead. The Boys. While The Boys is a streaming series based on a comic book set in a world where superheroes exist but are often corrupt and dangerous, don't think for a moment there aren't some truly horrific happenings when you give people power and very little accountability. A group of vigilantes, the Boys, take it upon themselves to expose and combat these rogue heroes. The show explores the darker side of superhero culture, depicting disturbing themes such as power abuse, celebrity culture, and moral decay. In one of many disturbing scenes, a plane hijacked by terrorists takes a horrific turn when Homelander kills the last hijacker in the cockpit with his laser eyes, in the process also destroying the plane's controls, which in turn causes the plane to ultimately crash, killing all of the innocent people on board. A History of Violence. Tom Stahl, a mild-mannered small-town family man, becomes a local hero after defending his diner from dangerous criminals. However, his newfound fame brings about dark secrets from his past. The film delves into the unsettling idea that ordinary people may have a hidden, violent past and the potential for darkness within them. In the early moments of the film, Tom Stahl confronts a group of criminals in his restaurant. The violence escalates suddenly and brutally, leaving the audience shocked by the sudden outburst of aggression. Breitburn. The primary ideas behind Breitburn were actually teased in a 2017 DC comic. This comic featured a Halloween special filled with a bunch of short horror tales set in an Elseworld style. One of these featured a reimagined Superman as a sinister intruder going by the name Bump in the Night. In a dark twist on the traditional Superman origin story, the movie shows it's not heroics that unfold when a child with superhuman abilities crash lands on Earth, but rather a malevolent and violent path that's taken, subverting the typical superhero narrative to explore the horrors that might arise if a superpowered being turned to the dark side. And one of the more disturbing moments, of which there are many, is when he uses his heat vision to burn through his dad's skull after his father attempts to kill him. Swamp Thing. A scientist, Alec Holland, seeks to protect the environment and battle those who would exploit it, though he is transformed into the Swamp Thing tragically after a laboratory accident involving dangerous chemicals. The movie combines elements of horror and environmental themes, creating a unique and unsettling character in the Swamp Thing. The scene that shows Dr. Alec Holland's transformation into the Swamp Thing is an unsettling one, as he inadvertently sets himself on fire and makes it to the swamp where his disfigured body, combined with the same flammable formula, mutates him into a moss-covered monstrosity. Darkman. After a scientist is left for dead by criminals, he develops a synthetic skin to disguise his severely scarred face. He uses this technology to become a vigilante and seeks revenge on those who wronged him. The film explores themes of identity, revenge, and the psychological impact of severe disfigurement. Throughout the film, Darkman's struggle with his disfigurement is depicted in a series of self-examination scenes. These moments, which reveal his damaged face and shattered psyche, are emotionally and psychologically disturbing. Old Boy. The story follows Odesu, a man who is inexplicably imprisoned in a cell for 15 years. Suddenly released, he embarks on a quest to uncover the identity of his captor and the reasons behind his incarceration. Along the way, he becomes entangled in a dark and twisted conspiracy while seeking vengeance and unraveling the mysteries of his past. In what would be one of the most iconic and disturbing scenes of the movie, has our protagonist eating a live octopus as he wants to eat a living thing. He grabs it and savagely tears into its mantle, shoving the tentacles into his mouth as they hang out like living spaghetti, grabbing at his face in a futile attempt to escape. It's a primal scene and shows how consumed with hate and revenge Desu is. As we have illustrated, these movies and shows offer a wide spectrum of unsettling and chilling elements, spanning from supernatural frights to deep psychological distress and moral ambiguity. In some cases, pushing the boundaries of their comic book origins. The highlighted scenes underscore the disturbing and hair-raising aspects in each of these cinematic works, painting a clearer and more intense picture of what makes him truly stand out in the world of horror and darkness. Thanks for joining us today. Please leave a like and subscribe. It helps out the channel immensely. Catch you next time.